because I keep saying that anytime I am reading or interacting in any issue around investments, about business, about entrepreneurship, I feel like I am in holiday. So this morning I have come for holiday here in Nyeri. Because talking about money is not something very bad. It is something good. And I want to laud the church, CITAM, for giving us this opportunity as business people, because it is one of the avenues God can bless many of us as Christians. And you know, many of us from Mashinani who were brought up in the village, in a Spartan life, conservative life. I'm an Anglican. To some extent, we may think that talking about money is going off. But I'm glad that every now and then we keep being reminded that even when you read about the Old Testament, God could bless his people even with great wealth, and it is recorded. And therefore, business is one of the ways that God can choose to bless us, and that is our domain this morning. But you allow me, because I am also a representative of the people of Kiharu and Kenya in terms of Parliament, National Assembly. I can hear there are some people from Kiharu here. Asante sana. It is important, I mentioned just in 2 minutes because it is important. In Kiharu, I am glad to be an MP there, and I'm sure, and I am glad even Honorable DMM has been there. Kiharu has been there. And I talk about this because when any part of Kenya develops, then Kenya is developing. When any part of Kenya decelerates, then also Kenya is going backwards. So in Kiharu, through NGCDF of Kiharu, it's a very large constituency. Actually, in terms of land mass, it could be only second from Kieni. We have around 112 public primary schools. 112 public primary schools. And I want to assure you, some of you who follow us on social media, the way they are, all our public primary schools, they are well done, well built, where we needed to build new structures. Where there are old structures, all our classrooms are tiled as a representation of all the other work done. When I say tiling, it's representing all the other overhaul of the work. Also, we have started like 7 new day schools from scratch. But lastly, the program that I'm very proud about is a program we run touching learners in day secondary schools, which we have around 65, including the ones we've started. And we have around 12,500 learners in those day schools in Kiharu. In Kiharu, what we've done is to do what is called backward aggregation. So we have consolidated the amount of budgets our day schools run, and then we try to work out a modality of lessening the burden for learners. So this is the outcome. The outcome is that of all the learners in our day secondary schools in Kiharu, we subsidize the education through CDF and other mechanisms, and learners in Kiharu only pay 1,000 shillings per term in any day secondary school. And where there is remedial teaching, it's that we don't actually permit in excess of 1,000 in the schools where there is remedial. And in that 1,000, learners eat in school from Monday up to Saturday. And they don't eat every day. We alternate some rice, some this, some that, some that. And in the last Friday of the month in Kiharu, all day schools, the last Friday of the month, they actually eat chapati for lunch. Including last Friday, which was the last Friday of the month. We do this because we know the primacy of education in shaping society from the household level going upwards. We have also invested over 20 million shillings in buying of revision books for those day schools. We are building laboratories. We are building halls in terms of deepening knowledge and education. I have mentioned that because it is important. It is important because this year alone, because we have 2 sub-counties in Kiharu, it's large. We have over 2,000 students who have come from other areas in Kenya with their relatives so that they school in our day schools. And I'm very proud about that. Because we don't ask for ideas. We are here as entrepreneurs. We are here as investors. But sometimes do you quip to ask yourself what is the difference? What are you? Because there must be a reason why in the dictionary there is a different word for being a businessman, for being an entrepreneur, for being an investor. Because if it meant the same, then it will be one word or one definition. So this morning, we need to trace ourselves so that we find whether we are in the right locus. But then we know Ndindi Nyoro as a politician. Why was he invited? In brief, I actually started business earlier than politics. Because in class 6, I had my first kiosk, class 6. And I'm not telling you those stories of I started a big farm with an apple or no. That's not what I'm doing. Out of necessity, from a mud house, from a father who was living in Kiadutu slums in Thika, and a peasant farmer mother, and in a family where the only person who had a car was my uncle, Matano, actually. After studying my uncle's life, I actually saw that he never progressed with education so much. So I thought I can take a shortcut like my uncle. Hakuna haja ya kujichosha na masomo. He was driving a KUI. He had never been to high school. So I started my first kiosk. And I could go buy some shopping. Hapo nyumbani kwetu kwa fence, nikakata nikaeka ka kiosk. Asante. But of course in class 6, when you have 200 bob in your pocket, there is nothing a mathematics teacher can tell you. So because I could not listen very keenly, my education ikaanza kwenda chini, ama grades. And my godmother, mwenye alinisimamia nikipatizwa, was my teacher and my village mate called Mrs. Karanja. So at the time wakati my father came from Kiadu to come over weekends, kamwambia your son is good, lakini masomo inaleta shida kwa sababu ya duka. So my father forced me to liquidate, but he was kind enough to actually pay me, so that I ran the canteen uninterrupted, so that we could buy some bread for the club, and of course some for ourselves to get the profit, and then to make the ends meet. Later on, my Form 3, Form 4, my elder sister had a mutumba in Thika. Maybe that's where I got the courage ya kuongea mbele ya watu sana. Because in my over holiday, I used to go to Thika. Pahali inaitwa Mukireti, wenye mnajua Thika. But before it was a market. So I used to sell mutuba there. Kumi ni baobao, bei ni ya kufunga. Nguo za watoto especially, I used to sell. University, when I was joining KU, I had 2 goals. One was to deepen my leadership. But number 2 is to expand in terms of business. So when I joined KU, my first year, first help, I paid for my school fees for the whole year for KU. But the second semester help in the same first year, number 1, started a kiosk. Those who are from KU, you know KM. I started a hotel there, and I called it Vatican Cave. And I remember one time, it was Valentine's Day, we had gone to buy sufurias with the person I had borrowed some money ya kuanza hiyo kahoteli. That guy is called Wamwere, now he's in the UK. And we had gone to buy sufurias in Gikoba for that hotel of mine. Then Wamwere told me, I've gone to see the girlfriend in a different manner. But number two, Wamwere had already told the girlfriend that he's doing a degree KU ya teaching na some economics huko katikati. So the lady was wondering, hii ni B.Ed gani na economics gani watu wananunua sufuria? Kwani ni home science? So of course we started that business na tukafanya hapo. The classmates used to come eat. After eating they tell me tuonane class. And they know I used to skip a lot of classes because of that hotel. So out of my classmates who are here, I'll tell the chief if he's around. You made my hotel collapse.
Up to US $50,000 credit line. Enjoy flexible payment terms.
Tell my hotel collapse. Then the same year, because I was determined, nikitoka mashinani, mi naenda, first of all, for money. Yo ikaanguka hoteli. The same semester, I decided to vie as a student leader in my first year as congressperson in the School of Humanities in KU then. So I vied, lost by 4 votes. Then I was wondering, I think nitaacha hii kiperebere because hoteli imeanguka, ndio hii politics ya hapo shule ni kama nimeanguka pia. There is something that happened in my second semester in KU. Either my roommate or next, hapo tu karibu, he was one of my best friends. So my sister came to visit, brought us meat, nyama, and we were so broke. Then we decided with Jemo, tukifanya hesabu ya kwenye semester imebakia, kula nyama inatuumiza. So we decided to sell the meat. So that we can push some days kukura ugali na matodo. So that first semester, long vacation. Hapa unamaliza mwaka uende second year. Of course me I had decided sirudi mashinani. So my uncle akanipea kanyumba hapo Lang'ata. I used to go mguu mpaka town. Nikapata some internship in the Ministry of Trade. But then when I was loitering around, I decided my former MP called Kenya Kariuki niende nikamtoanisha kitu. So I was, wakati yo comrade, I was, saa hiyo nimematch kiatu ya black, of course iko na vubi, na trouser ya black, na shati ya black. Sasa unajiona umematch ile mbaya. Na nimebeba bahasha. As usual, sijui kwa nini, when you are a student in campus or after you finish as a default setting. So I was carrying a brown envelope, was going to my former MP's office, but I was going there kumuonyesha he can rely on me in terms of kura za my youths, so that anipatie kitu, inipatie fare ya kukaa Nairobi. So nikapata a meeting. I was told you can leave your CV, but I was not going there to look for a job. I was going there to look for money, cheap money. Then later on, he called me within that week, and I went to his office. And akaniuliza, kijana ulikuwa unatafuta kazi? Kamwambia, yes sir. When do you want to start? Today sir. Hey. Nikaanza kazi hapo ya stock broking. The reason I've given all that background is because I do stock broking up to today. And that is the basis where I learned investments. Raw investments, especially in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. So whatever you read about Kenya Power, that is the genesis of me buying shares. I'm sure some of you have read something about it. In terms of